Okay, seems you're live. Avi. Hi everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to whichever part of the world you're joining from. I'm Mudit. A lot of you might have seen me in the past. For those of you who do not know me, I'm somebody from DeFi. Super delighted to meet you again. If you can hear me across platform, Akshar says hi. Hi Akshar. Good to see you here. Thank you for joining in. If people across other platforms can see us across, so we are also, by the way, streaming this time on Dataverse, which is a very interesting thing. So super happy that it is happening. um, what we'll do is we'll wait for a minute, we'll wait for a couple of minutes, let's do that, for everybody to join in, and then we'll start off. Sounds cool, I guess. So I'll just go to the background. Ideally I can turn on a music or something, but I will skip that. Let's just wait for a minute for everybody to join in, and then we'll start off. Okay. By the way, I think Supreet is also with me in the background. Supreet, if you can hear me, can you check the private chat once? Meanwhile, while the people are joining in. Hmm. Okay, cool. So I'll probably get started with a brief introduction of myself, and I'll also loop in my co-host for today's date very shortly after that. We're just trying to get a few things in order. Yeah, but yeah, again, very happy to see you all again here on a Saturday. Generally, for people who are joining, especially from the United States, it's a time around morning or afternoon, depending on where exactly joining from. And I'm super thankful that people join in after a Friday evening. So thanks to everyone who's joining from that part of the world, and welcome everyone who is new to DeFi's ecosystem. A lot of us might already be accustomed to each other. I've seen Akshay in the past. I clearly know that. Uh, but if somebody's new to DeFi, I'll be happy to introduce what DeFi is, who am I, and what do we do at DeFi. So for that, I'll quickly share my screen, give some perspective. And with me in the background, we also have Supreet. I'll loop her in a minute or so. I'll probably give a quick intro of DeFi in the meantime. Okay, just give me a moment. Okay, one second. Okay. So I think you can see my screen, right? Everybody can see my screen. Awesome. This is the DeFi platform, DeFi.tech / community. So we are basically a Belgian startup and a global data science community platform. Yeah, we are a platform where every resource is free of cost and is contributed by some of the best people out there. We have started as a community and we're growing like one. On today's date, we have some 100K plus AI enthusiasts on our platform from 150 plus countries. And they learn, they engage, and they add value to each other. On defi.tech / community, on the top bar, you can see this particular session as we're live at the moment. You can find a ton of courses available on the platform. These are 100% free. These are self-paced. Okay, so you can consume them whenever you want to. Just pick something that is of your interest and start learning. Similarly, there are AI challenges that happen every week. On every Friday, we challenge start with a on every Friday we start with a particular AI challenge, and that goes on for 3 or 4 days. And these are basically challenges where we have some real world data sets uploaded and a very interesting problem statement. So if you are somebody who's already a data scientist and want to learn more on it, You must go and check them out. Then we have 7 boot camps starting in a matter of less than 14 days from now. These are around a bunch of topics, and these will include, yes, these are cohort based programs where you'll get to learn with people who are like minded. So it's a great place for you to be. Okay. And apart from that, we have these live sessions, moments like these where we get to interact with you live, and we get the pleasure of hosting and talking to people who are making an impact in their industries. Okay. On today's date, in these live sessions, we have. Okay, I'm very happy to share that on today's date we have a co-host with us who is the founder of Databus. So let me quickly loop her in. So I think, yeah, I'll just do that. Hi Supreet, how are you?
Hello, hi Mudit. Hi everyone. Thank you again for joining. So we are back with our collaborated AI series. Our first one last week was a huge success, and I've received so many messages. So thank you for that. And hopefully this one will be as interesting as the last one. We have a very special guest today. So I met Christelle. Actually, she was virtual in one of the conference where I was a speaker 2, 3 weeks back. It was a rework MLOps and Trusted AI Summit where she delivered this amazing presentation on responsible AI. And she was kind enough. She sent me a LinkedIn request, though we didn't meet in person, and we connected from that. Immediately after that, I knew that we have to call her here, and we are so privileged and honored today to have her with us. So she's the AI leader at Cisco, and I mean, her title says it all. But I would request Christelle to introduce herself, what does her role entail, and also some of the past roles that she has taken. It's a very interesting LinkedIn profile. Honestly, I was impressed, and I'm sure everyone who will be viewing it will be impressed equally. And today also she has some of the very exciting stuff on responsible AI. We all know that responsible AI is becoming as pivotal as any machine learning algorithm, and a lot of businesses are taking it very seriously. So I think this is a very interesting topic that we all should know. So Christelle, welcome. Mudit, let's call Christelle from backstage.
Thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, Mudit from DeFi and Suprit from Databus for having me. I'm super excited to be part of the conversation and to be part of the forum today. So about myself very quickly, my name is Christelle Mombo-Zigah, and thank you for the great pronunciation of my name. I live in the Silicon Valley in California, and I work at Cisco Systems, and I actually wear two hats at Cisco Systems. I am a senior manager in customer experience, customer success for global enterprise West customers. But I also joined our very newly founded Responsible AI Committee at Cisco. So I am part of the team, and my role is to not only build the governance and the framework for responsible AI for all our AI solutions, and make sure that we are respecting and adhering to all the different principles that we have created. So there is a big part around the vision and the principles and the framework, and another one around the practice of responsible AI as well, making sure that it is well implemented across our AI lifecycle. So I don't know, Suprit, if you will be sharing my screen. I definitely would like to spend a little bit more time on what we do at Cisco from a responsible AI perspective for anyone who is interested in implementing the same kind of framework and governance system within its respective company. And then talk about more about where I'm coming from a career journey perspective, which is really from the business side, and talking about the business value of responsible AI and why it matters for our customers, but also for our employees.
Totally, totally. We are looking forward to it. So Mudit, should I share my screen and get
Yeah, yeah,
started?
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure,
okay,
sure. Definitely.
awesome.
I was just trying to do that meanwhile. I tried uploading it on, yeah, Google Slides, and it doesn't look good. I'm glad that you were able to share it. Okay.
Okay,
Awesome.
let me. Uh,
By the way, the ones who have joined us live, right? First off, thanks a ton for that. You can put in any question that you have around the topic. The way I look at it is, a lot of us may be aware of what responsible AI is, how it is important, how it is driving value. A lot of us might be very new to it. So you can feel absolutely free to ask whatever you want. We have one of the best persons who could answer your questions. So please feel free to put them across in the comment section. We'll be happy to look at it. Yeah. Supreet, are
Yeah,
we good to go? Yeah, yeah, sorry. You're saying
no,
something.
no worries. I will try my best to define it in a very simple way as well, as I'm presenting how we are approaching responsible AI at Cisco, for anyone who has not been exposed to the discipline, which is still pretty new.
Yeah, yeah, I think that
Awesome.
will be great. Yeah. So I'll just go to the background. Yeah.
So I think um, there might be a little bit of formatting issues, Christelle, but I think you're gonna do 100% justice when you describe it. So I'm not
Okay,
worried
and
about it.
happy to share the presentation right after I shared it with you. So anyone who is
Yes.
interested in looking at the presentation, sorry for the background, for the formatting. It doesn't necessarily look as it is supposed to, but that's fine. So I really
Okay.
want it to be a live conversation anyway. I want it to be interactive. So if you allow me to spend maybe 20 minutes just presenting what we do at Cisco, what I consider as some of the business value of responsible AI, and why I believe it matters, and definitely at the end, definitely would like to allow some time for Q&As and to answer additional questions. So I introduced myself already. As you know, I wear two hats at Cisco. So going just very quickly about my career journey, which is the second slide, if you don't mind, Suprit. So, looking at responsible AI, as I said, I'm coming from 15 years of experience on the business side. And I am originally from France, actually. So, I live in the Silicon Valley in California, but I am a French citizen. I was born and raised in France. France is my mother tongue. So, I'm feeling very close to all European regulations, and I kind of have already also the same mindset. But looking at AI and responsible AI more specifically, I am an autodidact in artificial intelligence and responsible artificial intelligence. I might have taken maybe 2 online introductory classes in AI and machine learning with Google Cloud Platform (GCP). And outside of those classes, for the past 2 years, I've been doing obviously some extensive readings, just to make sure that I was continuously learning about artificial intelligence and ARI. And I was actually, for the very short little story, exposed to AI and responsible AI when I was working at Cisco in customer experience, where I am as well. And I was trying to innovate. So I was working on an internal innovation. I was also studying at Stanford. I graduated from Stanford GSB this year. So as part of my assignment at Stanford, I had to find and to implement a new innovation at Cisco. And my innovation was to improve the customer experience. I wanted to find a way to better align the different organizations supporting customers, to better align the different data that we were gathering around our customers, and to better and to generate faster and more data-driven decisions. So by looking at different tools, I definitely realized that AI was the best way to do so. And I started working with data scientists, and I started to learn more about creating the right level of our algorithms and so on and so forth. So that's really how I got exposed to responsible AI. And I just wanted to say also that I think that for me, what I realized about AI versus a responsible artificial intelligence was the fact that it was even more important for me as a woman, as a Black woman, as an immigrant with an accent, as a dark skinned person, sometimes wearing my hair curly. I was realizing that the experience that I had as a user with some of our AI products and solutions was not the best. I was realizing that some of the solutions and the products were not necessarily catering to me and to my profile. I was realizing that, yes, I speak in English, but I have a French accent. And AI speech to text translation was not able to really capture the words that I was using. So that's really how I really got introduced to responsible AI, and it is definitely now a passion of mine. That's definitely where I want to continue my career. I know it's still a very emerging discipline, and we do have a lot of opportunities to grow. So on an additional personal note, if you don't mind, and I will definitely share the slides because again the formatting anyway. If you don't mind moving to the next one, super. So on a personal note, as I said, I realized that as a minority or an underrepresented minority, responsible AI was even more compelling for me. Um, and being a millennial, and having gone through one of the hardest time, I believe, in our lives during the pandemic, and we are still in the pandemic, and I just recovered from COVID last week after getting it for a second time. The pandemic was definitely a time of a lot of self-reflection personally, and where I realized that it was really important for me to keep my sanity, to find a way to better align my work, my values, and my purpose. And what I found out with responsible AI and artificial intelligence in general, AI, was that it was offering enormous positive potential for humanity, for businesses, and for public services, which are also spreading across all different industries. Um, but it was also in need for additional accountability and transparency and regulation. So again, really focusing on the responsible aspect of AI, it is for me one of the best way to really find the perfect alignment again between what is top of mind for me, my work, my values, and my purpose. So I'm going to talk a little bit more in the next slide, if you don't mind, about responsible AI at Cisco. Again, I joined the Responsible AI Committee this year. The committee was officially founded in January 2022 of this year, and I joined the committee in March. One, I was already working in AI in my own innovations in customer experience. The committee is cross-functional. There was not necessarily any representative of customer experience or on the business side in the committee when I joined. So they were looking for someone who had experience in the business on the business side, and that's how the whole team realized that I could be valuable through the different facets of my profile, which could help guiding and providing perspectives and adding new perspectives to how we wanted to implement a responsible AI at Cisco. So we define responsible AI at Cisco as the development, the deployment, and operation of AI ML technology in a manner that greatly reduces the risk of unintended bias or discrimination, as well as the risk of certain security and privacy issues that are unique to AI. And we all know about some of those issues, and I'm going to spend a little bit more time on that for anyone who is not aware, but I'm sure that everybody is aware of those security and privacy issues. So at Cisco, we accomplished what we call responsible AI through the establishment of what we call a responsible AI ML framework. And on the next slide, this broad AI governance framework is really created for anyone who develops, who deploys, and who uses AI capabilities. Uh, and, and this governance is translated into a set of principles that correspond to concrete working practices. So there is really this idea of moving from principle to practices, which is really important for me because I don't want to work on something which is just a pure marketing or branding exercise. I need to make sure that it is also going to be implemented. So you have the different 6 principles on the screen. The first one is transparency. And transparency is just about informing our users, our customers, our partners about how and where AI as a technology is being involved. So we are fully transparent about that, and we are moving toward even more transparency. Fairness is the second principle. And I talked about me as a woman, Black woman, immigrant, having an accent, and so on and so forth. We want to make sure that there is an equal representation of all the different demographics across the full spectrum of diversity within our algorithms, but also our training data, our applications. So it is very important for us to have the equal, again, representations of the full spectrum of the humanity. Accountability, so making sure that we are responsible for our work, and we make sure that we prevent our technology for any type of inappropriate use. Privacy, and Cisco is definitely a company known for its security and privacy solutions. And we realize that as much as we are currently very much offering a lot of business to business applications and solutions through hybrid work technologies such as WebEx, we are using personal data. And we sometimes are in a position where we make decisions about a person or for a person. So it is very important for us to make sure that the privacy is being controlled throughout the data and the solution lifecycle. Security, we do have a lot of solutions who are part of our security architectures at Cisco. So security is just ingrained in everything that we do. But from an AI systems perspective, we need to make sure that our AI systems are resilient and are also protected from any malicious actors. And last but not least, the reliability. So our AI systems, our AI solutions needs to be efficient. There is the concept of the efficacy of AI solutions, which needs to increase the accuracy and the ability also to produce replicable results. So this is something that we do intentionally. The efficacy of our AI systems, but also the fact that we are controlling the replicable results that we want to get from the solution that we develop. So that's pretty much what we do at Cisco. Again, a set of governance framework, a set of principles, and different working practices to really move from the principle to the practice. So now I'm going to move to my passion and where I really found my niche, coming from, again, 15 years of experience in global business development, working across multiple industries, and coming from also my own persona, the business value of responsible AI and why it matters. If we want to move to the next slide. So again, as an autodidact, when I went through those 2 classes, and those were pretty extensive classes, I would say 8 hours in total or 6 hours in total on, again, artificial intelligence and machine learning. And I know it's not a degree. I might go back to school. I just graduated from another program, so I might go back to school and study more the topic or take additional classes. But through my learnings, through my readings, through my research, I really started to define, the concept of the two sides of the same coin when looking at artificial intelligence versus responsible artificial intelligence. If you want to move to the next slide. So on one side of the coin, we know the potential, we know the value of responsible AI. We know about the numbers which are expected to be generated by 2030, $15.7 trillion as a potential contribution to the global economy for artificial intelligence. So it's already there. We are talking about the fourth industrial revolution. So we cannot get away from it. I'm personally in favor of artificial intelligence. Again, I understand the value from a data-driven and acceleration of the decision-making process through the machine. But on the other hand, I know that a lot of companies have been placing a lot of attention towards the positive outcomes that the companies realize by the adoption of and the use of artificial intelligence. Um, and again, those outcomes are the faster data driven decision making and improving the customer experience. We do use artificial intelligence in our customer experience organization at Cisco, increasing the employee productivity and their satisfaction, and increasing the revenue. So positive outcomes, they are a no-brainer. We are going to continue to move towards even more artificial intelligence in the future. However, if you move to the next slide, when you look at the other side of the coin, and actually those pictures on the slide are already pretty old news, not bad news, but old news. When you look on your news, wherever you get your news, you kind of get almost daily informations about the negative and unintended consequences of artificial intelligence. We hear about unethical AI practices, and those are concerns which are growing among employees, among customers, among partners, and among the general public. We feel like as AI and machine learning have rapidly improved, we are not keeping up. We are not keeping up because we don't have yet currently good data. We need more privacy and regulatory policies. And there are also general risk, including bias and ethically wavering use cases, such as the weaponization of AI. So this is not where we want to go, but those are use cases that we hear more and more about how AI can be delivered. So in my own position and having been part of a lot of D&I, diversity, equity and inclusion and belonging efforts, for me, I wanted to make sure that responsible AI was more than being seen as the right things to do. I really wanted to make sure that I could influence business leaders within my organization and even outside, because they are the one making the decision on where the company is going from a strategic standpoint. How could we make sure that? How could I make sure that I could influence business leaders to really invest in responsible artificial intelligence and to really adopt not only the frameworks and the principles, but to also really implement those ones into real, concrete, working practices and activities. I also wanted to make sure, as I said, that responsible artificial intelligence was not seen as an overhead cost. Well, it's too expensive. It's not necessarily good for our bottom line. So we are not going to focus on it because we just want to grow, grow, grow. Or I wanted to make sure that responsible AI was not seen as a marketing or a PR exercise. So we just check the box. We say that we have some principles, but no one really does anything about those. And last but not least, I love to innovate in general. I've launched 2 innovations at Cisco. I love to solve problems, and I love artificial intelligence because it's a way for me to solve problems at scale, at the global scale, and way faster. So I wanted to make sure that the responsible aspect of it was not considered as an innovation inhibitor. So if we move to responsible AI, it's going to stop any type of innovation because there are way too many regulations. So that's the reason why I really decided to focus on the business value, and make sure that I could inform business leaders on the real business value of responsible AI. So you can move to the next slide. And I'm going to be quick because I see that we are already at 8:03 in California. So from a business value perspective, and coming from the customer experience organization, knowing that in a highly competitive environment at the global scale, making sure that you are building trusted relationship with the customers is one of the biggest competitive advantage. So when customers actually trust a brand, they are more likely to be loyal to it and to interact and engage with it. So if you want to gain new customers, but also retain customers, make sure that you increase your customer spending through upsell, cross-sell activities. If you want to make sure that your customers are actually adopting new services, you need to make sure that your customers trust you and trust your brand and trust your products. When you look at a study that I was reading on from Ernst and Young, it was they were saying that among a majority of the respondents to a survey that they sent, 67% of the respondents said that yes, a good reputation would be enough for customers to actually try a product. But if they could not trust the company behind the product, they will just stop buying. 67%. So trust is a must have, especially in our current data driven digital economy. It's a competitive advantage. If you want to be successful in the competitive, highly competitive climate we are in today for customers, you have to enable a trusted relationship with your customers. And responsible AI is definitely, through the different principles that I talked about, a way to, and through the transparency principle, more specifically, a way to gain the trust of your customers. If you move to the next slide, so when we talk when we talk about customers in a company, and even at Cisco in customer experience, for us, we have two type of customers. We have our external customers, but we also have our internal customers who are our employees. You are all aware, I'm sure, I know it's very pervasive here in the United States, and I should have asked where you are all located, but we've been talking about the great resignation for the past 2 years since the pandemic, where millions of individuals are still leaving their workplace. And what we know is that a lot of employees today, and not only the millennials and the Gen Zs, but a lot of employees today are just thriving for change. They want to change. And that's the reason why they are leaving the workplace. And they are thriving for tech for good. So they want technology to actually have an impact on societies and humanity and in the world. So when you read a quick Deloitte Global Gen Z and Millennial survey, you realize, according to them, that the Great Resignation was just signaling a breaking point, where all employees have been actually reassessing how they want to work and who they want to work for. Or today, 64% of millennials, and me included, to be honest with you, won't take a job if a company doesn't have a strong corporate social responsibility values. And they will not be loyal to a company which doesn't help to contribute to social and environmental issue. So again, by offering a purpose-driven environment for your employees, you can actually ensure more acquisition of new talent. And there is this war for talent today, and even more in the tech industry, but also for retention and engagement of those talent, especially for the Gen Zs and the millennials. If we go to the next slide, this one for me is kind of a no-brainer. Because when you talk about responsible AI, more from a fairness and inclusiveness perspective, and you might have seen that inclusiveness was not part of the principles, but we are actually working at including inclusiveness as a responsible AI principles. The companies who are actually making sure that their products are catered to a wider range of demographics and groups are the most successful, because they are just expanding their total addressable market. So by just applying responsible AI practices throughout your product development lifecycle, you actually have the ability to, again, enhance product quality because your products target multiple audiences. Because your product, because you need to be more transparent and more accountable, so you do the right thing when you develop your product. But ultimately, you reduce the cost because it is more expensive to have to redesign or to have to remove from the market a product which was not developed responsibly. So from a data security and privacy standpoints, so responsible AI, we saw that some of the principles are, or some of the biggest principles are around security and privacy and reliability. So data security and privacy are really key principles in AI, responsibility and governance. And if companies just fail to address flaws on their AI solutions in a timely manner, that can just place a significant financial and reputational burden on firms. So it's very close to the product quality enhancement of a product, for the enhancement of a product. You need to make sure that outside of ensuring the security and the privacy of the data, and even more the personal data of that you generate and that you leverage in your algorithms, you have to do it because the financial consequences and the reputational risk is far greater than doing this additional investment upfront and throughout the life cycle of the product development of a product. So companies need to improve their data management, security, and privacy, which is going to turn into more diverse data sets, into more data sharing capabilities, because those data will be more controlled and more vetted, and which will turn into improved AI outcomes as a consequence. So if you move to the next slide, the compliance aspect is here. So through my readings and coming from Europe, I do follow a lot what is happening from what has happened and what is still happening from a GDPR perspective. We say, and the subject matter experts who are writing the laws around artificial intelligence regulations are saying that 2022 is going to be the year where this regulation is going to happen. So you already see a lot of countries in China, in Singapore, in Japan, who are actually passing algorithmic governance law. Those laws are currently being seen or being passed as draft, so they are being revised. But we definitely expect those laws to be applied and to be to go through the process and to pass. When you look at Europe and the European Union, you have the AI Act. This one will pass also. People say that GDPR was the first step, and AI Act is going to be the second one. In the United States, you might have heard about Joe Biden, our president, working and inviting a lot of subject matter experts from multiple industries, multiple disciplines, to also define what are going to be the standards and the frameworks for responsible and for artificial intelligence. So there is the National Institute for Standards and Technology, the NIST, and there is also the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, IEEE. So those are entities where they are already working at they are drafting what should become the standards and the frameworks for more compliance. So companies must be proactive, and instead of waiting for those laws to be passed, they actually need proactively to implement responsible AI through their organizations. So next slide, and I'm still taking the time to make sure that we allow enough questions, and I want to hear from you. I'm going to talk very quickly about the brand risk and reputation. I think that I kind of touched it, but Um, we live in an economy, in a digital-driven economy, where between 70% and 80% of market value comes from very hard to assess intangible assets. So those intangible assets are brand equity, intellectual capital, goodwill. So organizations are even more, especially vulnerable today, to anything that can damage their reputations. Because again, 70 to 80% of their market value is coming from intangible assets. So responsible AI can increase a firm's pricing power in the marketplace through a superior brand awareness and reputation. Responsible AI is going to be a way for you to avoid to appear in the news if you do things, if you do innovate and leverage artificial intelligence responsibly and ethically. And that's one of the reasons why Cisco decided to launch its own responsible AI discipline and practice, because we wanted to make sure that we were not the next company appearing in front of the big headlines about any misconduct or negative or unintended consequence of one of our AI solutions. All right, so I hope what I shared, and we can move to the next slide. I hope what I shared about AI, responsible AI, being good for business and not necessarily only being the right things to do in a very philosophical way, makes sense. Again, I really focused on building trusted relationship with customers, and in customer experience in my in our discipline, everything is around the customer, and the customer is at the core of any strategic decisions that we make. um, we are in the context of the Great Resignation. So what is top of mind for organizations is how can we attract, engage, and retain employees? And those employees are today's looking for a technology for good. So responsible AI is one of the way you can actually align with your company's values and purpose. The product quality enhancement, it might require some additional cost upfront, but you will save and increase the value proposition of your product. Data security, better data management internally for the company, and better security for the product. Absolutely. Making sure that you as a company be ready as soon as possible, and not wait for those laws to actually come, because they are coming, and 2022 is going to be the year. And last but not least, from a brand management, brand reputation, risk management perspective, responsible AI is a way to increase your business positioning and your competitive advantage. So I'm going to stop here. I have 2 additional slides, but I know we only have 4 minutes, so I'm not going to go to the other slides. I just would like to conclude that for me, as pro AI I can be, I just want I want to make sure that we all agree that we need to continue to have a human-centric approach to artificial intelligence. So, and this human-centric approach to artificial intelligence means that AI is working in service of the human, and not the other way around, because we do see in way too many times, in way too many occasions, human relying 100% on artificial intelligence, while it should still be used as a tool to get to the business value and the technical value that we are expecting, and not becoming the controlling machine that everyone is fearing. All right, so I hope it was making sense and it was interesting, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have or any comments.
Wow, thank you, Christelle. I think that was an amazing session. I've taken a lot of notes, and I'm sure our audience did too. So we do have a few questions. I know we just have 10 minutes, so we can probably take questions that you didn't cover during the session, because we were having questions in the start of the session as well. So are there any popular frameworks to implement RAI at organizations?
The popular framework is what we see, and I talked about Cisco, obviously, but we've been emulating other companies who've been doing it way before us. I would say you have to make sure that you implement a governance system or a governance framework which is cross-functional. So AI should not only reside within the engineering team or data scientist team. This is something just touches every single aspect of the business. So at Cisco, within our committee, more specifically, we do have obviously technologists and data scientists and product managers, but we have people from HR and public and community, and we have people from the business side, sales and customer experience, because we need to make sure that we address all internal but also external issues that AI can generate.
Yeah, true, so true. So I think the next one is that RAI has affected hiring practices several times in the past, but do you think enough attention is or should be paid to RAI while looking for skills in young AI talent?
I would say that I'm not sure if the school system today um, is training data scientists to responsible AI. So I would invite, and we do have implemented at Cisco a set of trainings to make sure that, yes, we were acquiring great talents from a technical standpoint. Um, by going through the interviewing process, we wanted to make sure that those talents were also adhering to our values at Cisco. And we have a new purpose at Cisco, which is called Powering an Inclusive Future for All. So if you don't believe that if you don't expect to build a better future for the next generations, Cisco might not be the right company for you. So one, you need to make sure, yes, that the person that you are hiring adheres to the values of the company and the culture of the company, but you need to also equip the data scientist and anyone working again in developing AI solutions, equip them with the right set of trainings. You also need to make sure, when I was talking about the human-centric approach, you need to make sure that you have diverse team. And I'm not talking only about visible diversity. I'm talking about neurodiversity. I'm talking about, there was this very good experiment at MIT. And I actually learned that this is something that we did at Cisco too. So I was very excited. So at MIT, they coupled actually data scientists and linguists, and they made them work together to make sure that they were reducing any artificial intelligence risk from a speech or conversational AI perspective. So really looking for more diversity in perspectives is also going to be a way to achieve more responsible artificial intelligence internally.
Yeah, definitely. I think the concept of RAI has forced all the other universities and everyone to think about their curriculum because that is one missing piece. We do learn
Mhm.
it on our jobs, but I think that is something that can start from the very beginning of your bachelor's or master's degree, especially when you're specializing in data science. This has to
Absolutely.
be an important component. Um, okay,
But I
and
have a
I
question here.
sorry,
Sorry, yeah.
yeah, Madhu.
So usually, despite people talking more and more about RAI, but still we keep on seeing these reports where it is more of a reactive approach than proactive, where we see that okay, I was productionized, and then after a while they realize that there are problems around it. So where do you think it's? I mean, where do you think there is still a gap that even the biggest of the companies are, despite having such wonderful committees, they are kind of making these mistakes? Where do you think is it lacking?
That's a great question, and I would say in customer experience, everything that we do is a life cycle. So I think that we definitely should emulate this life cycle approach. You don't implement responsible AI once your product is already finalized
Right.
or once you are at the last phase of the testing of your product. The responsible AI should be really part of the AI life cycle, and it really starts when you actually ideate and you envision what your product is going to be. At this stage, you need to, and which is the very first stage, the ideation and exploration of an idea. This is really where you should start looking at what would be the benefits and the AI benefits, but also the potential risk And that's when you need to consult with diverse stakeholders to talk about, well, we are thinking about this product and these solutions uh, with this AI solution, but we want to assess already at this point in stage what are going to be the potential risk for different stakeholders. Is this product is going to be accessible for a wider range of demographics and groups? So really throughout the life cycle, from the ideation, the creation, the definition of the objectives, the data requirements, the prototyping. When you prototype, there should be questions about responsible artificial intelligence. So throughout the life cycle, all the way down from the launch of the product and the iteration and the evolution of the product. So it really should be a life cycle, not an afterthought, not the final stage. It's really when you envision your product.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I think just another comment, I mean, just to add to what Christelle said, I think there are companies who are implementing it, maybe even every step of the way of an AI project, but for some, it's still like a checkbox thing that, okay, we are done. But I think it's more than that. It's a mindset shift, it's a process
Absolutely.
shift. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
those things need to be implemented. So
And
definitely, this.
I agree. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. And I think that that's why you need to have the why, the
Yeah.
why behind it. And you need to think about the consequences. I do believe that my mindset changed when I started having my daughters, and I have two of them. One is 5, and the other one is 2.5. So I changed my mindset because now I am more um, anxious
Right.
about the future that I'm going to leave for them,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
learning about some of the unintended consequences of some of the AI solutions that we see. I'm telling myself I'm not going to let it happen. I need to do something. So yes, I think
Definitely.
there needs to be a mindset shift, and there needs to be an explanation of the why. And the why, if we do it again only from that's the right things to do, we need to be good, people might not necessarily adhere to it depending on their sensitivity. But when you talk about, hey, there is a business value, you want to get your stock, you want to get your RSUs, we need to make sure that we are generating enough revenue, and we are increasing the reputation among our stakeholders for you to get, the additional stock or whatever type of compensation that you want to get. So we are all in it together.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
I think with this we can conclude the session because rest of the questions I think Christelle covered during her
Yeah.
session.
Yeah, sure. And I think it was a fairly insightful one. One of the things that I personally felt from the session is that one of the reasons definitely agree with you on that part where you say that people have to realize the business value also. There's on the business front as well. But one thing that I personally felt is that a lot of people do not really know that these are the things which could happen if you are not aware of responsible AI. For
Hmm.
example, there have been debates around certain AI being having certain traits lately, and frankly, as somebody who has very little exposure to it, it took me some time to actually interpret what's wrong with an AI being, let's say, sentient. Why are we even discussing so
Mhm.
much about it? So yeah, I think this was for me personally, it was very insightful, and I think the community also
Same.
enjoyed it a lot.
I,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I'm
Definitely.
passionate about the topic, and I always have a great pleasure, and I think that I found my niche. I think that I will never be. I cannot say never. I'm not a data scientist. I think that for me, I do have a great understanding of the technology, and talking about, as you said, the risk and the value is what matters to me the most. So
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your passion with us. I think it was clearly reflected in the way you shared so much knowledge with us today. And I'm sure the community will benefit with this. So, everyone who dialed in, thank you so much. All of you will be watching our recording. Thank you for that. And we have some more amazing content and some amazing speakers lined up. So, do go follow Christelle, follow Databuzz, follow DeFi, and show some love to all of us.
awesome. Thank you very much for joining and for listening. And I look forward to additional engagement. I am on LinkedIn. I am very active on LinkedIn. So I look forward to continuing the conversation. And don't hesitate if you have any questions about our framework at Cisco and where you should start and so on and so forth. Happy to help you.
Amazing.
great, great. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. We'll
Thank
meet you
you.
all soon again. Bye.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Bye bye,
Bye.
everyone.